This third generation version of Audi's devastatingly quick RS3 provides the entry point into the brand's formidable RS performance range and features the most powerful production 5-cylinder engine in Ingolstadt's history. The big change this time round is the addition of a new torque vectoring rear differential, which, along with a vast engineering upgrade, has transformed the immersive feel of this car at speed. Plus, there's more technology, smarter looks, and a more sophisticated interior. The result is a compact performance car that claims class-leading status more credibly than ever before, and aims once more to rewrite the shocking rocket rulebook.
The Audi RS3. If you know this model line, you might think you know what you're going to get from this third generation version. Lots of power, lots of grip, but maybe not quite so much involvement as a true enthusiast might like. The RS3 has always been a bit like that, but this one, we're told, is different, very different. Still fast, still formidable through the turns, but finally, at last, a car you could really bond with. Of course, you may not know the RS3's story to date, so it's worth a few moments of recap. This engine, a tuned 2.5-litre 5-cylinder power plant, has always been part of its DNA, part of Audi's DNA. Like V8s for AMG or straight 6s in BMW M cars, a tuned 5-cylinder unit is part of the DNA of a division which was once called Quattro GmbH, but which is now known as Audi Sport, the Ingolstadt brand's performance division. That, of course, was the configuration used for the classic Quattro Coupe that first established Audi's engineering credentials back in the 80s. And the brand returned to it in 2012 with the introduction of the very first RS3 Sportback, one of the very first hot hatches to break through the 300 PS barrier, offering 341 and what was then seen as quite shocking levels of performance. Customers loved that Mark I model, and Audi sold 4 times as many as it thought it was going to. Journalists, though, didn't, criticising the car's soulless dynamics, lifeless steering and general lack of agility. A super hatch of this kind, they told Audi, had to be about more than just ultimate grip and prodigious speed. The RS, or Racing Sport badge, deserved something better. So, in 2015, Audi tried again with a lighter, faster-reacting second-generation RS3 model, now offering 377 PS, along with the option of adaptive damping and a saloon body style to sell alongside the Sportback hatch. Both the media and the market, though, remained unconvinced, even when in 2017, power output was further increased to 400 PS in a bid to keep up with this model's closest rival, the Mercedes-AMG A45. In that final Mark II form, the RS3 was vastly better, but it still couldn't claim class leadership. But this third generation model might just do that. In both saloon and this Sportback form, it looks more purposeful and is, thanks to greater pulling power, a more expressive soundtrack, more grip, better brakes, and a clever torque vectoring rear differential. It's the first RS3 to break the 4-second barrier to 62 miles an hour, and it's the first that can really stand shoulder to shoulder against its Mercedes A45 arch rival. So, what exactly do we have here? You're going to need the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test, to find out. So what's it like? Well, you settle in behind the perforated leather steering wheel, get greeted by an Audi Sport branded instrument screen and eagerly press a red ring starter button by the now more diminutive gear shift selector. It's always pleasing to hear the turbocharged 5-cylinder, 2.5-litre power plant that forever characterises this model line. Its soulful burble certainly more satisfying than the rather strained 4-cylinder rasp of a rival Mercedes-AMG A45. So you're ready? But for what? Well, a more sophisticated experience, that's for sure. Let's reassure you, first of all, that this third generation model is faster than before. despite a 400 PS output unchanged from that served up by final versions of the previous model. Some work on the engine mapping has released another 20 Newton meters of pulling power. There's now 500 Newton meters of it, and the forward thrust stays for longer and arrives earlier in the rev range. Early enough to allow this car to dip below the 4-second mark for the 62 mph sprint for the first time. That benchmark dispatched in 3.8 seconds on the way to a top speed that's rated up to 180 mph if you tick the right option box. Yes, you heard that right. For reference, the rival Mercedes-AMG A45, which puts out 427 PS, has an identical torque reading and records 3.9 seconds en route to 168 mph. We like that Mercedes very much, but we wonder now whether this RS3 might at last have its measure. So detailed are the engineering refinements that have gone into creating this third generation model. The headline feature this time round is that this Audi's Quattro four-wheel drive system can at last move torque not only between axles, but also between rear wheels, making possible the kind of selectable drift mode that we saw in this segment as long ago as 2016, when Ford introduced it on the third generation Focus RS. But that's just the start. Let's brief you on the detail. The bespoke Bridgestone Potenza tyres sit on 19-inch rims that have been widened, as has been the front track, by 33mm over the previous version. At both the front and rear wheels, there's increased negative camber for enhanced cornering traction, requiring a stiffer subframe and bearings. Plus, the wheel hubs and axles have been redesigned, the anti-roll bars are stiffer, and the ride height is 10mm lower than an S3. Plus, there's a new uprated active exhaust for a more soulful sound, extra chuffs and whistles, alongside the familiar 5-cylinder rumble. Stopping's more immersive too. The steel brakes with their 6-piston calipers are now larger, 375mm at the front and 310mm at the rear, while new ductings improve cooling efficiency by 20%, which is better for track days. For those, you'd ideally want to lighten your wallet with a pricey ceramic brake upgrade, which saves 10 kilos. What about transmission? Well, there's still basically the same 7-speed dual-clutch paddle-shift auto gearbox as before, but it now has a wider spread of ratios for quicker acceleration and cruising efficiency. As for suspension, well, 8 different geometry arrangements were experimented with by the development team to get the front axle feel right before they settled on the final setup, which uses unique dampers featuring a new valve system. Need proof of the sheer depth of engineering that's gone into making this car a class leader? You've got it right there. But as we said, the headlines here surround the way that torque can now be shifted from side to side across the rear axle as you catapult through the corners, courtesy of this car's clever new torque vectoring rear differential, which works with an electromechanical multi-plate clutch. This allows for up to 100% of possible torque to be directed to the wheel at the outside of any given bend, which in turn reduces the cornering radius, eliminates understeer, and makes the car noticeably more agile. It's all good. It's the same system used by the current Golf R and similar to that which features with this car's Mercedes A45 arch rival. Through quick corners at speed, you can really feel it working as the torque splitter manages the torque load and the rear wheels find grip they'd never previously have had at speeds which in the old model would have seen you decorating the scenery. The feeling is a bit like an imaginary hand helping to push the car around the turns from behind, and it's enough to considerably increase your confidence in this car's cornering capabilities. It's also enough to make this third generation RS3 fun, a word you never really could have used about its predecessors. And if you happen to be on a circuit or a closed road, another dimension lies in store courtesy of a freshly added drift mode. It's not actually called that. Audi thinks it's more politically correct to call this the car's RS torque rear setting. But that's what it is, allowing you on a wide, private piece of tarmac to transform this into a rear-driven car whose rear axle angle you can control with throttle and opposite lock steering, as you power through an expensive cloud of Bridgestone rubber smoke that swirls away in angry clouds across the bonnet. Reports from those with an inexhaustible budget for Potenza tyres suggest that drifting with this version of the setup is easier and more intuitive than it is with the system fitted to a Golf R. This RS torque splitter system is one of the parameters you can set up to your personal preferences for road use as part of the car's RS individual drive mode menu, with comfortable, balanced and dynamic options that can also be selected for the drive system and the steering, plus the suspension too if you specified adaptive damping, which, annoyingly, Audi's elected to keep an extra cost option on most variants. The idea is that you tailor the drive dynamics as a race driver would tune their race car. You can also alter engine sound and set the ESC stability system to a less intrusive sport dynamic mode. Saved settings can then be accessed via a punch of this one-shot RS button on the right-hand steering wheel spoke. Pressing it again connects you to your alternative one-shot option, RS Performance, where everything's turned up to Red Mist Max, including a throatier exhaust, Sport ESC, and a specific head-up display format if your car's been fitted with it. In RS Performance, you'll be connected straight into the bespoke RS runway screen layout that's been added to this third generation RS3 model's virtual cockpit instrument binnacle screen. This can also brief you on G-force readings, which appear in more detail as part of an RS monitor section added to the central MMI Navigation Plus screen, that also shows powertrain temperatures and tyre pressures. So there's lots to get to grips with, as well as the usual 4 Audi Drive Select drive mode options: efficiency, comfort, auto and dynamic. The brand's also added a traffic light display system, so it's easier to activate the standard launch control setup, and there's a blinking shift indicator prompting you to pull the right-hand shift paddle so that you can get each upshift precisely right. Are there issues? Well, not many. For us, the 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox, despite its enhancements, remains this RS3's weakest link. The shifts remain a fraction too slow, even if you try and activate them yourself with the new, but still rather small, zinc-coated paddle shifters, something you really notice if you're slowing from high speed for a tight corner and want to snick down a couple of ratios in a hurry. It's also the sort of thing that would lose you time on a circuit, but on road or track, you'd gain that back with the extra grip and faster reactions that have really transformed this car in this third generation form. At the wheel of this machine, you're suddenly transported into a world where you complete a twisting section of your favourite country road and wonder whether a Hamilton, an Alonso or a Vettel could really have driven it much quicker. You subconsciously know, of course, how much the car is compensating for your ham-fistedness, but somehow it doesn't matter. You have, at that moment, a glorious, if slightly dangerous, feeling of invincibility. It's a route you might perhaps have covered a tenth or two quicker in, say, a BMW M3 or indeed in any supercar, but at the end of it, your palms and forehead would likely be sweaty, your heart pumping furiously, instead of which your mind is still, Mozart's on the stereo, and you're free to return to rumination on the kind of day whose toil has doubtless made purchase of a £50,000 super hatch possible in the first place. Ultimately then, what we've ended up with after a decade of RS3 development is what we were promised at the very beginning, a real-world supercar. And you know what? It's been worth the wait. Subtlety used to be an RS3 trademark, but as you can see, that's well and truly been abandoned this time round, especially if, as here, you opt for one of the more extreme colours. But if you really are done with worrying who notices you and what they think of your purchasing decisions, we'd recommend you consider the more conservative-looking saloon body style, which, as with the previous generation model, is provided as an alternative to this sportback hatch. Either way, in profile, the cognoscenti will identify this Audi as an RS3 by its lower ride height, 10mm closer to the ground than the S3 and a full 25mm lower than an ordinary A3, and of course by the various RS body styling touches. The finish of these depends on the trim level you've chosen. Lower side skirts in black or carbon, and door mirror housings and window trims finished in either matte aluminium, carbon or black. A hot hatch fan wouldn't miss these flared wheel arches either, wider to accommodate larger 19-inch wheels that'll be finished in either platinum grey or matte black. Either way, peeking out between the spokes, you'll spy RS branded calipers, usually black, but which can, as here, be coloured red if preferred, or grey, red or blue if you opt for pricey ceramic stoppers. The front end is where this ultimate A3 really stands out from its stablemates though. This redesigned glossy black version of the single frame front grille with its honeycomb mesh is apparently needed to cool the larger 5-cylinder engine that lies beyond. And it's flanked by these huge lower corner cutouts which aim to make the car look more aggressive and emphasise its wider front track. It's an angrier look that'll certainly be ideal for clearing the motorway fast lane as you bear down upon commuting dawdlers. Further up, a full LED headlamp styled with this more distinctive jagged lower edge design and able with pricier trim levels to include Audi's intelligent matrix technology that'll adapt the beam to changing road conditions. That matrix package gives you darkened lamp units which at startup play an RS3 animation on one side and a checkered flag graphic on the other within the 15-piece LED panel. It's a bit of a gimmick and you'll like it very much. At the back, Audi experts will quickly spot the vertically running struts of the distinctive rear diffuser, which at either corner swaps the twin exhausts of the S3 for huge, oval, elliptic single tailpipes. The roof spoiler's far less subtle on this super hatch variant too, and slim reflectors now adorn the upper edges of the black honeycomb-trimmed bumper. Under the skin, there's much the same light, sophisticated MQB platform that was fitted to the previous generation model, but 29% of the passenger cell that sits upon it is now made up of intensely strong, hot-formed steel. So, an evolved exterior, but what's it like inside? Unlocking the car can now be activated by your smartphone if you happen to have an Android device and pay extra for the optional Audi Connect key. In the past, the cabin experience is what sold RS3s, so let's get behind the wheel and let Audi weave the little spell it likes to lay on you before you've even turned the key. It's all in the details. And it's what'll sell this one. There aren't actually that many model-specific features, just carbon dashboard inlays, a flat-bottomed RS-branded 3-spoke wheel with an RS button, and these branded sport seats upholstered in quilted Napa leather. The steering wheel paddle shifters are still rather small, but gain tactile zinc finishing, and just as on an S3, the start button gets a red ring, plus there's a diminutive little silver gear selector. Having taken in all of this, owners of the previous generation version will be more likely to notice what Audi calls a new level of digital technology, though it's been incorporated here much less self-consciously than it is in a comparable Golf R. As is Audi's current style, black panel tech dominates with hidden screens you don't notice until you fire the engine, at which point the 10.1-inch MMI centre screen and this 12.3-inch virtual cockpit instrument binnacle display both spring into life, both featuring RS3 specific touches. Let's start with the instrument screen, which is of the larger size you can get on A3s and fires into life with Audi Sport branding. What's different about it here is that this RS button on the steering wheel clicks the display into what Audi calls an RS runway rev counter format, which lights up brightly as the revs soar. Circular power and torque percentage gauges sit to the right of the runway graphic, while a customisable box to the left can show G-meter readings or tyre pressures if you don't want it to brief you on audio, phone or navigation info. As usual with this virtual cockpit screen setup, pressing this steering wheel view button delivers two more standard customizable screen layouts, either one with a couple of prominent dials separated by an information screen, or an infotainment mode which shrinks the pair of gauges to allow more central space for various data readouts, a trip computer, media or phone settings, or a full-width navigation setup. Anything this screen can't tell you, and much that it can, will of course be found on this car's central infotainment screen, which for this RS3 gains an RS Monitor menu. With that you can choose between real-time powertrain temperature readouts, G-force readings or tyre pressure info. Otherwise, this MMI Navigation Plus setup is just as it is on other Audis, with the most important radio, media, telephone and nav functions dealt with by tile apps you can move around with the kind of drag and drop functionality you'll be used to from your smartphone. The screen doesn't glide out of the dash like the previous generation display did, but the brand has improved its voice functionality and claims that this MIB3 modular infotainment platform provides 10 times the computing power of the previous MIB2 setup. As you'd expect, there's a standard Audi smartphone interface that provides for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto smartphone mirroring, along with 3D sat-nav, Bluetooth and a 10-speaker 180-watt DAB audio sound system. Plus there's a DVD drive, a 10GB jukebox hard drive memory and an available Wi-Fi hotspot. The Ingolstadt brand also throws in a 3-month subscription to its Audi Connect infotainment services package, which permanently connects the MMI system to the internet with high-speed access via an embedded SIM. Enough on media tech. There's certainly something of a cockpit feel in the immersive style of ergonomic design, in the way these air vents combine with the instrument binnacle and the manner in which the centre screen and the redesigned climate controls just below have been canted towards the driver. This lower centre console looks very different too, larger, smarter, silver framed but unfortunately covered in shiny piano black trim that will easily scratch and quickly attract hair. Rather disappointingly, this area ahead of the gear selector is no longer home to a rotary controller for the screen above. There is, though, this little round sensory volume control that reacts to circular finger movements and is a lot easier to use than the slider volume function strip provided on a Golf. Much effort has gone in to visually emphasise the width and spaciousness of this cabin, most notably with precise horizontal lines and surfaces like this striking line of vents on the passenger side with a smart curved carbon trim strip below, which looks classier than it actually feels. Adding to what's largely an illusion of extra interior room is the way that the seats have been positioned a little lower to give 7mm more headspace. There's 6mm more elbow room and a fractional 2mm more shoulder room too. What else? Well, storage space could be better. The glove box, which incorporates coin holders, isn't especially big. Plus the door bins are slim and the console box between the front seats is rather shallow, though it's topped by an armrest that neatly ratchets up to your preferred elbow height. There's a ticket clip in the driver's sun visor, a coin tray next to the gear lever, and ahead of that, at the base of the centre stack, there's a stowage area, obviously intended for your phone. Not only because you can have a phone charging mat here, but also because 2 USB ports are provided just above, though unfortunately they're only of the USB-C variety. Between the seats you get cup holders too, of course, though ideally they'd be covered away. They do, though, get these little stays to keep your drinks in place. Little details like that count. Time to take a seat in the rear. Now, given that the 1.43 metre height and 2.64 metre wheelbase dimensions of this third generation RS3 are unchanged over the previous generation design, we weren't expecting too much change here. And sure enough, as with most cars in this segment, it's not particularly spacious in the back. You'd certainly love to find the kind of sliding reclining bench you can have in a comparable Audi RS Q3 SUV, but that sort of thing doesn't tend to feature on a conventional hatch or saloon. A 6-footer can sit behind an equally lanky driver, but it's a fairly snug fit, and as you'd expect from this class of car, 3 across the back here only really works if the people concerned are of school-going age. This high-centred transmission tunnel certainly doesn't help in that regard. Still, a pair of modestly proportioned adults would enjoy reasonable comfort, helped by a small 3mm increase in elbow room this time round. And what's on offer here is directly comparable to what you get in the 2 rival models we've been mentioning, the Golf R and the Mercedes-AMG A45. What else? Well, the door bins are rather small and there are a few signs of cost cutting. The cup holders in this central armrest, for instance, reside in just this single open moulding rather than gliding out of the armrest end as they did before. Still, the premium feel that characterises the front of the cabin is properly preserved back here, with touches like the quilted leather upholstery, these smart angled door handles and the overhead LED reading lights that sit at the end of this contoured raised ceiling panel. Twin central vents and coat hooks in the grab handles also feature. Boot space falls over an ordinary Quattro A3 or S3, the usual 325-litre capacity, falling to just 282 in this RS3 Sportback model. It's 321 litres with the RS3 Saloon. Still, there are plenty of practical touches, including 4 tie-down points and a 12-volt socket on the left, plus 2 bag hooks. There's a useful underfloor compartment, its size, in this case, somewhat limited by the battery. Either way, there's certainly no space for a spare wheel. If you need room for longer items, you can make use of this 40-20-40 split rear backrest, the centre part of which can be pushed forward between a couple of rear-seated passengers for the easy carriage of lengthy items like skis. Push the rear bench fully flat and you'll have up to 1,104 litres of room to play with. Let's get to the pricing, pitched from launch at around £51,000 for the RS3 Sportback, with a further £1,000 premium for the alternative saloon variant. Here we've got what Audi called the launch edition, but that fully loaded variant quickly sold out, leaving 3 main rungs to the RS3 ownership ladder with either body style. Beyond standard spec, just under £5,000 more gets you the mid-range carbon black model, while if you can find nearly £8,000 more and stretch towards 60,000 quid, the summit of the range is marked by top Vorsprung trim. In considering the value proposition here, let's start with this car's positioning in Audi's own range. At the time of this test, this model's same 2.5-litre 5-cylinder 400 PS engine was also available in the brand's TT RS Coupe for around £56,000. Beyond that, there was a decent price gap up to the next cars up in the company's RS lineup, both offering 450 PS, the RS4 Avant at around £65,000 and the RS5 Coupe and Sportback models at around £70,000. What you're really going to want to know, though, if you're considering an RS3, is how it compares on price to its arch rival, the Mercedes-AMG A45. Well, at the time of this test in spring 2022, that car was only being offered in the UK in top 427 PS S-Tune form and only with top plus trim for around £58,000. The A45 comes only as a hatch, but you can have the same package with 4 doors if you choose the swoopier CLA 45S 4MATIC Plus model, which is priced at around £61,000 and is also available in shooting brake estate form. And that's really it for credible competitors. At the time of this test, BMW hadn't announced a new era M2 competition model. You might want to wait for that. Or you might want to save yourself £10,000 and get yourself a Volkswagen Golf R. Yes, that car has a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine with a considerably lower output, 320 PS, but it uses much the same torque vectoring multi-disc clutch setup as you get on this Audi to distribute power across the rear axle. And that £10,000 saving over an RS3 would allow you to add to your Golf R some of that model's choicest extras. Maybe the R Performance Pack at around £2,200, dynamic chassis control, adaptive damping at around £800, and a throaty Akrapovic exhaust, just over £3,000 more. But it all smacks a bit of compromise, doesn't it? Our advice would be to try the A45 and try this RS3 back to back, test drive to test drive. Don't listen to the so-called experts. Decide for yourself who's really cracked the ultimate super hatch formula. And if you reckon that it's Audi, then you're going to need to know just how generous the brand has been with standard spec. So let's take a look at that now. Every model in the RS3 range comes equipped with all the key driving features that distinguish this third generation model. The RS torque splitter for cornering traction, an RS exhaust system and of course Quattro four-wheel drive. You also get an Audi Drive Select driving mode system with 3 additional RS specific settings: RS Individual, RS Performance and, for circuit drifting, RS Torque Rear. In addition, the 19-inch wheels come shod with bespoke developed Bridgestone Potenza Sport rubber, and you get a progressive steering system which uses variable steering rack and pinion gearing to give more direct responses to larger steering angles. What about the common RS trimming features fitted across the range? Well, as you'd want, there's a menacing RS body styling kit, including flared front wheel arches, a wide front bumper, a front honeycomb grille, and a bespoke roof spoiler. Plus, black side skirts, a gloss black rear diffuser, and matte aluminium look finishing for the exterior mirror housings and the window trims. There are bespoke puddle lights too, projecting the Audi Sport logo onto the ground as you exit your RS3. Inside, meanwhile, there are heated front sport seats in fine Napa leather with RS embossed logos, and Audi's 12.3-inch virtual cockpit instrument binnacle screen with 3 RS-specific display layouts: RS Sport, RS Performance and RS Runway. In addition to all of that, you do of course get all the features you'd find on a very highly specified A3. That means rear privacy glass, power folding mirrors, auto headlamps and wipers, dual zone climate control stainless steel pedals, cruise control, ambient lighting, an auto dimming rear view mirror and an alarm. There are front and rear parking sensors, and you also get the brand's Parking Assist with Parking System Plus setup, which will automatically park the car for you in a selected space. And as with all A3 models, infotainment is taken care of by Audi's 10.1-inch MMI Navigation Plus centre screen, which uses the brand's latest MIB3 modular infotainment platform. This is able to provide 10 times the computing power of the old MIB2 setup based in the previous generation model. And that of course enables the MMI Navigation Plus setup to deliver an awful lot. As a starting point, you get 3D sat-nav, Bluetooth and a 10-speaker, 180-watt DAB audio sound system. Plus there's natural voice recognition, an available Wi-Fi hotspot, a DVD drive, a 10GB jukebox hard drive memory, and the usual Audi smartphone interface that allows use of the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto MirrorLink smartphone mirroring systems. The Ingolstadt brand also throws in a 3-month subscription to its Audi Connect infotainment services package. This permanently connects the MMI system to the internet with high-speed access via an embedded eSIM. Thanks to this, you can call up highly detailed 3D city displays, use online and hybrid radio with access to thousands of global stations, and call up information on things like fuel prices, weather, flight times, and other online services provided by third parties. The Connect system also enables you to access special in-car versions of your Facebook and Twitter pages, and it's possible to read, write, and send text messages and emails. Plus, the included online media streaming package gives access to millions of music tracks with artist recognition. And There's also a clever Audi online traffic information system that uses live traffic information to reroute you around traffic jams. What else? Well, you can take Audi Connect connectivity with you even when you're not with your RS3, thanks to the improved My Audi app. This transmits points of interest to the navigation system, streams music, and can transfer your calendar to the MMI infotainment screen. The app also allows you to seamlessly plan a route across multiple devices. So, for example, if you're going to a restaurant in an unfamiliar city and have to park a few streets away from the venue, navigation will continue with you on your smartphone as you complete the journey on foot. And finally, as usual with vehicle apps of this sort, you can use it to get a vehicle status report and to lock or unlock the doors from wherever you are. So, those are the common features fitted across the RS3 range, but what differentiates the various trim levels? Is it really worth finding the extra for a carbon black or Vorsprung trimmed RS3? Well, let's see. We'll start with the standard RS3 Sportback and Saloon models, which have 19-inch 10 T-spoke platinum grey wheels with a gloss-turned finish and black brake calipers, and feature standard spec full LED headlamps. Stepping up to carbon black trim gets you a meaner look courtesy of a gloss black front spoiler, as well as a carbon fibre finish for the exterior mirror housings, the rear spoiler, the side skirts and even the engine cover. The wheels get a dark matte black finish too and feature a 5 Y-spoke design. What might really sell you on this upgrade though are the darkened Audi Matrix LED headlights, which at startup play an RS3 animation on one side and a checkered flag graphic on the other within the 15-piece LED panel. You'll immediately want all your friends to see it and to hear the throatier RS Sport exhaust system. Is it worth going even further and getting top Vorsprung spec? Well, you decide. The extra money at this level gets you even more black styling clues with the Black Styling Pack Plus package, and the 5 Y-spoke design 19-inch wheels get a graphic print finish. Adaptive suspension comes included. The top speed is raised to 174 miles an hour, and you get luxury features like a 680-watt 15-speaker Bang & Olufsen 3D sound system, a panoramic glass roof, a head-up display, and a 360-degree surround view camera setup, along with an electric boot lid, advanced key, keyless entry, and a rear-view camera. Plus, more driver assistance and safety kit, which we'll brief you on in a moment. On to options. Now, most customers are going to want to specify RS adaptive suspension, which works through the various Audi Drive Select modes. That costs £960 or £1,175 if you get it with a largely pointless top speed increase to 180 miles an hour. That adaptive damping system and top speed increase also comes included if you're prepared to blow around £5 more on the pricey RS Dynamic Pack, which gives you RS ceramic brakes with brake calipers in gloss anthracite grey, and if your chosen trim level doesn't already include it, the RS Sport exhaust system. If you haven't stretched up to Vorsprung trim, then you might also want to look at spending around £1,200 more on the Comfort and Sound Pack, which gives you a reversing camera, the 15-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system, and advanced key keyless entry. Those final two features also available to order separately, as is adaptive cruise control. Bear in mind, by the way, that you'll almost certainly be paying your Audi Centre more for the colour of your choice. The only standard one is a rather drab Kimura grey metallic. There are now some really bright shades available if you think you can carry them off, including Python Yellow, Tango Red, and this test car's Kyalami Green. You might also want to look at the optional red brake calipers, or if you'll be regularly engaging in track days, maybe even the fearsomely expensive ceramic brakes, whose calipers can be ordered in grey, red or blue. It's disappointing though that Audi no longer offers the wonderfully emotive winged Super Sport seats you could have on the previous generation model. Enough with optional features, let's move on to look at safety. Now, the amount of camera safety technology fitted to modern compact models these days is mind-boggling, especially in this case. With all possible systems fitted, this RS3 will feature a front radar with a 60-degree opening angle that can measure up to 160 metres from side to side, plus 2 rear radar sensors, each with a range of 70 metres, along with a front camera, 12 ultrasonic sensors and 4 surround view cameras. So what can all of this deliver? Well, let's dive in and tell you. You'd expect an advanced autonomous braking system, and of course, Audi calls its setup Pre-Sense Front, which also includes pedestrian and cyclist detection. There's also a collision avoidance assistant that can help you with steering torque and braking to steer around a critical obstacle. And lane departure warning will alert you if you drift over lane delineating lines before applying light steering torque to ease the car back to where it ought to be. Annoyingly though, for a car of this price, you have to pay extra for high beam assist and traffic sign recognition. On to passive safety features. Now, front and side airbags are of course fitted, and Audi includes its front and side airbags with head bag system, which gives you front side airbags incorporated into the seat backrests and rear side airbags integrated into the side bolsters with a head airbag system. You can pay extra for rear side airbags and a special E-curtain airbag in the front. Should any of the airbags ever inflate, the Audi Connect Safety and Service package will automatically alert the emergency services with your exact GPS location. You can also tick off ISOFIX child seat fastenings, anti-whiplash head restraints and a tyre pressure loss indicator, plus twin front, side and curtain airbags. In addition, as expected in this segment, there's a complete roster of electronic acronyms, including the usual electronic assistance for braking, traction and stability control. There's also a rest recommendation feature that monitors your driving for drowsiness, alerting you if necessary to stop for a restorative coffee. On uphill junctions, you'll be glad of a hill hold assist feature that stops you from drifting backwards. We mentioned earlier that traffic sign recognition, high beam assist and adaptive cruise control all cost extra. Well, you get all of those for just under £1,500 more as part of Audi's optional driver assistance pack, standard only on the top Vorsprung models. This also includes a feature that Audi's particularly proud of, adaptive cruise assist, which combines the functionality of adaptive cruise control with active lane assist. This is a camera and radar sensor controlled assistance system that will autonomously accelerate, brake and steer your RS3 while maintaining a safe distance to vehicles ahead, as long as you keep your hands on the wheel. Audi's always had two choices when it comes to the engine of this car. The easiest approach would simply be to uprate the 2-litre TFSI turbo 4-cylinder unit already used in the brand's S3 model, as partner brand Volkswagen does with the Golf R. This RS3's Mercedes-AMG A45 arch rival also sticks with a 2-litre 4-cylinder format to keep efficiency figures within reasonable bounds. Ingolstadt wants to maximise efficiency too, of course, but thankfully Audi Sport's preference with the RS3 model line has always been to install its far more charismatic, but inevitably less frugal, bespoke 5-cylinder engine in order to make the driving experience of this car more memorable. So how much does that decision cost this car when it comes to the all-important issues of fuel economy and CO2 cleanliness? Let's see. Not too much is the answer. For this sportback shape, you're looking at a combined cycle reading of 31.4 mpg and a CO2 return of 205 grams per kilometre. For the Saloon RS3 variant, it's slightly better, 31.7 mpg and 202 grams per kilometre. Either way, this RS3 is fractionally cleaner than the rival Mercedes A45 and almost as frugal. For reference, the A45 manages 31 miles per gallon and 206 grams per kilometre. As you'd expect, the far less powerful Golf R does much better, 36.2 mpg and 177 grams per kilometre. But Audi argues that 320 PS Volkswagen to be more directly rivalled by its 310 PS S3 model, which manages 34.9 mpg and 183 grams per kilometre. But this RS3 sounds so much more exciting than the rivals we've just mentioned. Bottom line, you don't have to pay too heavily here for your pleasures. Not on paper anyway. In practice, if you regularly achieve anywhere near 30 mpg with this car in day-to-day use, then you're not driving it properly and it deserves a better home. You know where we are. Interestingly, the previous generation model was cleaner of emissions, but slightly less frugal. With today's car, efficiency is one of the options you can choose for the Audi Drive Select driving mode system, and an efficiency assist segment of the centre dash infotainment screen offers general economy tips. No, we haven't used that either. You'll be expecting the benefit in kind rating of this RS3 to be a bit sobering, and it is up at 37%, but it's the same as with that rival A45. Audi does have an advantage when it comes to insurance groupings. Think 41E for the Merc, it's 35E for a base RS3, though that rises to 37E with mid-range carbon black trim and 40E with top Vorsprung spec. The RS3's cachet will keep residual values sturdy, in the short term at least. Industry specialists CAP reckon that it offers a class-leading residual value figure of 62% after the usual 3-year or 60,000 mile ownership period. That compares with 60% for the Mercedes AMG A45, and that low depreciation will certainly help with your whole life costs. Though if you go too far in expensive options, you'll still feel the pain come resale time. Think in terms of an RS3 costing you about £17,000 to £20,000 in value loss over a 3-year ownership term, and you'll be about right. There aren't many comparable high-performance models that can better that. What else? Well, if you're thinking of doing some track day tyre smoking, bear in mind that the bespoke Bridgestone Potenza rubber supplied will be fearsomely pricey to replace, though not quite as expensive as the Pirelli P0 Trofeo R track tyres that you can specify on this car in other markets, and which we'd want to buy ourselves for it here if we owned this RS3 and regularly took it to circuits. As for general maintenance, well, Audi's flexible service regime for high mileage drivers could mean you only need an oil change every 2 years or 19,000 miles. An oil condition sensor on the car determines the service interval for you. If you do less than 10,000 miles a year, Audi recommends an annual oil change with a full inspection service at 2 years or 19,000 miles. Somewhere in that span, the need for an impending garage visit will flash up in the instrument binnacle. In fact, this car can even book its own service appointments via an Audi Connect safety and service system app. As well as providing emergency calling and online roadside assistance, this feature can, at the appropriate time, send a service request direct to your local dealer. Alternatively, you can sign up for Audi Service Request, which uses the onboard Wi-Fi to enable your car to communicate with the dealer. As your RS3 nears the time when work will be needed, the diagnostics alert your nominated local Audi centre, who will then contact you to book in a convenient time. Maintenance costs can be kept down if you go for one of the prepaid servicing plans you'll be offered at initial purchase. Another neat service your dealer can offer you is the so-called Audi Cam system. Here, technicians carrying out workshop inspections on your RS3 can focus a handheld Audi Cam camera on specific problems, accompanying the image with a verbal diagnosis to create footage that can be sent to your computer or smartphone. That way, you'll know precisely what work you're authorising on your car. On to the warranty. All contenders in this class get 3 years of cover, but whereas you won't get your mileage limited in this period if you opt for something made by BMW or Mercedes, Audi rather meanly restricts you to 60,000 miles. Optional extra cost warranty packages can extend the cover to either 4 years and 75,000 miles or 5 years and 90,000 miles. If the worst happens and the car breaks down, there's free roadside assistance included for the first 36 months of ownership. Finally, an RS3 really worthy of its badge. It's taken rather too long for Audi to nail this formula, but with this third generation design, they finally have. It isn't just fast and grippy like earlier models, it's also a driver's car with real layers of character, a super hatch of depth and quality, soul, involvement and emotion, created by engineers who've really sweated the details to make this car a class benchmark. The new RS torque splitter active rear axle torque vectoring system isn't the only reason for this, but it's a big factor in this Mark III model's evolvement. And if you're fortunate enough to find a closed circuit where you can drift with it, you'll find the experience more intuitive and rewarding than with a similar system fitted to a Golf R. The 5-cylinder engine's frantic performance seems more accessible too. Yes, in theory, a rival Mercedes AMG A45 has more power, but flat out on the road, this Audi actually feels just as fast, if not quicker. What it boils down to is that with savage overtaking ability, all-weather capability and a practical side that will endear it to many, this car represents an ideal alternative for well-heeled buyers who've outgrown powerful sports coupes and saloons or ordinary fast hot hatches. And it's amazing to think that this level of astonishing performance represents merely the entry point to Audi RS ownership. And in summary, well, finally, we can recommend the RS3 without any caveats. Well, almost anyway. We wish it was more affordable. The adaptive damping system should be standard. The S-tronic gearbox is occasionally a bit of a weak link. It'll certainly be pricey to run, and the angrier looks won't endear it to introverted folk. But it's now a super hatch not only for the Autobahn and the morning commute, but one with everything required to make your heart beat just a little faster. Enjoy it while you can.